Uh-oh.
Okay, we'll start with this. The latest as it pertains to King Ryan's anti-doping fiasco, Ryan Garcia, who has revealed that he's now requested the B samples for his positive drug tests and has people testing all of the supplements he took before the Devin Haney fight to see if they were contaminated. He also said he believes the situation is a setup, an inside job.
The question remains, if you think it's an inside job, then what are you testing supplements for? It's either cross-contamination in the supplements or someone sets you up. Which one is it?
Since you're shifting the blame away from yourself in every other direction that you can think of, he's requested his B samples.
Among the other details, I'm curious to see, because this is one of the rare opportunities where the positive test has coincided with a commission test. You know, usually you've got VADA or someone else catching somebody 6 weeks out, 2 weeks out. Here, I think we're going to see at least one example of how good are the commission tests, because we've got positives from VADA, apparently, on Friday and Saturday, and we have a commission test on Saturday.
That is essentially saying that samples were collected from two anti-doping entities. One was VADA and the State Commission, the New York State Athletic Commission.
And, look, it's hard to hold commissions to the same standard. They don't have the same resources. You know, they're state funded, they're government funded. You know, it's tough for them to keep up to the state of the art. But here, we don't often get to see an A/B test. You know, we know that these tests have come down positive in all likelihood. And it'll be interesting to see what comes back on the commission test, whether to detect it or not.
Because Ryan Garcia is pointing the finger at the Haneys in association with Victor Conte and Victor Conte in association with VADA, claiming that they all worked together to set him up, one unlikely scenario that might help Ryan build his case against VADA, is if the commission sample doesn't test positive for nandrolone and aspirin the same way that the VADA sample did.
Why?
It's because the samples were collected the same day. Thus, how could one test sample test positive for something and the other one doesn't? What's going on?
Somebody tampered with one of the samples because one is clean and one isn't.
But why is that an unlikely scenario?
It's because usually whatever's in the A sample is also in the B sample. It's essentially the same urine collected the same day from the same person. Usually you pop open that B sample, it's the same as the A sample.
But this is what Ryan Garcia has requested, while simultaneously trying to cultivate public favor from as many groups as possible. Trump supporters, Bible thumpers, conspiracy theorists.
Everybody.
He's trying to win a battle in the court of public opinion, and he might, but in an actual court of law, proving what it is he's saying.
That could prove difficult.
As this situation wears on, Team Garcia are becoming more and more bold in their assertions, their accusations that somehow Victor Conte is behind all this, bringing up his sketchy past, the Balco scandal,
and what are supposed to be his connections to the voluntary anti-doping agency that handled the testing for this fight.
These are the connections that Ryan is attempting to make publicly to defame the company, defame Victor Conte, and hold the Haneys culpable for what is his positive drug test. The problem is, you hired them.
It's all in the name.
The voluntary anti-doping agency. You voluntarily hired these people.
You entrusted them to handle the doping testing for this fight. You empowered them.
If you were so worried about Victor Conte's connections to them and his sketchy past, you could have used another anti-doping agency, USADA or drug-free sports.
It's not like you had to use VADA.
You could have used somebody else. You chose them, so that when you piss hot, you say it's their fault.
Not yours.
It's on them.
Not you.
Emboldened is the word, as Ryan Garcia is going as far as threatening Victor Conte with physical violence, saying if I see Victor Conte, I will knock him out. Allegedly.
Uh-oh.
The man who don't work with a known banned cheater versus the man who loves Jesus and barely takes supplements.
Is that the same man who deliberately missed the weight by 3 pounds and then admitted it afterwards?
One in the same, Ryan Garcia unwittingly assassinated his own character by admitting that, because that's something that someone who's looking for a competitive edge would do.
Taking steroids is too.
Now saying that he's going to sue VADA, but on what grounds?
How?
You're the one that contracted them.
You.
You agreed to use them, and I'm pretty sure that covers them in the fine print. Thus, the burden of proof is on the accuser, not the accused, because you're innocent till proven guilty. If what you're saying is they tampered with your samples, you're the one that's got to prove it.
Can you do that?
Sobering comment from a Twitter account that goes by the name Rob, the boxing shrew, said, it wasn't a setup when he criticized other fighters for failing through VADA, though. The lack of accountability. I wish these fighters would just explain or find out why it was in your system, for fuck's sake, rather than attacking those that caught you. And that's what Ryan is doing. He is trying to delegitimize the test because he doesn't actually have an explanation.
Not right now, anyway.
They'll come up with something, try to, but until they do, they're gonna try to shift the blame over to VADA in association with Conte and Conte in association with Haney. That means you have to prove they tampered with your samples.
How are you gonna do that?
CCTV, audio, video, text messages, emails.
So you have DNA evidence that puts one of them in the WADA-accredited lab that handled your samples.
Because you're gonna need it. If what you're saying is, in between the time that VADA representatives collected your samples and those samples were in transit, tested at a lab, and the results were then published, someone tampered with them,
set you up.
You have to prove it. If it is your intention to sue VADA, you might win the case in the court of public opinion, but in a court of law, it's not going to go over so well.
Fooling a couple of idiots online with whatever nonsense you spout is one thing. Winning an actual court case.
The way it is and how Ryan's been carrying on, I would sooner expect VADA and Victor Conte jointly to win a defamation case against Ryan than Ryan being able to win a case against them and what he's alleging, because the burden of proof.
You take to your social media saying all this shit, you're building their case for them.
You're literally building their case for them because you're publicly defaming them. You're blaming them. But what evidence can you present that they did anything to you?
Aside from the job you hired them to do.
Simply saying that you're the one that hired them doesn't exonerate you of culpability or devalue, delegitimize the test and what it found, the testing agency. We're supposed to look at them funny instead of the guy who pissed hot? Is that how it works? We're supposed to question everything now. Question the testing. Question VADA. Because Ryan Garcia said so.
Because of what an upstanding citizen he is.
The guy who lied about being mentally ill and being molested when he was a child. The guy who deliberately missed weight and admitted it.
Some character.
And all of a sudden, we're supposed to give VADA the side eye because Ryan tells us to. This guy. Like I said, these shenanigans might actually fly in the court of public opinion, but in a court of law, it's not gonna work.
Ryan has pledged to donate $20 million to Palestine. The war that's going on over there, America is deeply involved with. They supply all the weapons to Israel. Israel is attacking Palestine. They're taking land that's not theirs from Palestine, and Ryan has donated $20 million to it. Andrew Tate has pledged to match his donation, and this is what's going on, and everybody already knows the setup that happened with Andrew Tate, and if you don't, well, look into it. And on top of that, the thing is, Ryan is set to make an appearance on Alex Jones' podcast, right? They already agreed to have the interview. Alex Jones is one of the most hated people in America because of the whole Sandy Hook shit. But, you know what I mean, whether you believe in his conspiracy theories or not, he has a mass fucking following. And people like this are dangerous to America. America is run by the left media, by the Jewish corporations. And it is what it is. Like, if you don't understand what's going on behind this shit, I don't know, man. Today, I officially became a PBC fanboy because I see what fucking DAZN doing. It's crazy that they got Eddie Hearn in the pocket like this, trying to overturn a win that a man earned.
That political science major from the University of Google with a minor in YouTube economics is under the impression that Ryan Garcia
20 mil.
really donated 20 million of his own dollars to the Palestinians.
So what, were you born yesterday?
Where this era is different from the previous one is this is an era of individuals who grew up with an internet, what is an omniscient presence that has been ever present in the upbringing of this generation that we're in right now, treating it with a level of authority.
Very little critical thinking skills.
Because it has been the background character of their lives. Thus, whatever is said there is automatically qualified, is automatically true, no matter how outlandish it might sound to me or you. That already...
You've already bought into what this kid's been saying?
Was this all an act? What part of it was real? Tell us about it.
I mean, my cameraman Chance, Ajay's there. Hey, we have it pre-recorded months ago. What did I say was gonna happen? I said, I'm about to make sure everybody thinks I'm going to go crazy. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. Watch, it's going to be called The Great Escape. Like, I have it all documented. I was already planning it, weeks and weeks and months behind.
I'll give Ryan this much. He knows his audience, and he knows that these are not terribly intelligent people with very many critical thinking skills. They'll go along with whatever he says just because it sounds familiar, just because it's something that they may themselves have searched on Google, the internet. What sensationalistic, provocative, and hot-button topics are often talked about on internet forums and popular social media platforms, anything from political ideologies,
The Trump supporters.
religion, which has always been a hot-button topic,
The Bible dumpers.
and, of course, the conspiracy theorists, the ones focused more on the global elites than how much food they have in their fridge.
Yeah, those two things could be interconnected.
Yeah, perhaps they could, but when you're more focused on what Klaus Schwab is doing instead of giving yourself a clean shave, going outside and touching some grass.
Touching some ass.
The modern-day hermits of today are easily swayed so long as you know the right buttons to push. And Ryan Garcia, he seems to have intimate knowledge of that as he's built a village around himself.
Preemptive strategy to win every battle in the court of public opinion. That's why he has so many people rallying around him for any number of reasons. People in boxing, people outside of boxing.
Varying demographics of individuals in support of Ryan Garcia for any number of reasons, all based on the nonsense that he spouts on his social media, even after admitting that it was all fake. Everything he said about the molestation in Bohemian Grove.
My cameraman Chance, Ajay's there. Hey, we have it pre-recorded months ago. What did I say was going to happen? I said, I'm about to make sure everybody thinks I'm going to go crazy. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. Watch, it's going to be called The Great Escape. Like, I have it all documented. I was already planning it, weeks and weeks and months behind.
He already admitted that all of the conspiracy theories and everything he was carrying on about weeks ago in the buildup of the Devin Haney fight, it was all staged. It was all an act. It was all fake.
Then why do people still believe him?
What it reminds me of is what American novelist Mark Twain once said. It's easier to fool people. It's actually easier to fool people than to convince them that they have been fooled.
Because by then, you won't want to admit it, that you've been had.
Duped by one so duplicitous as Ryan Garcia, who gravitates towards any number of hot-button topics to push people's buttons.
What stirs emotions.
Rendering the individual or individuals emotionally compromised, not using logic, rather going off emotion. It's what he wants. He wants you to believe him, and you do, because of what he's talking about, no matter how silly.
Unlikely.
Because what's more likely? That the global elites, the Illuminati, and the lizard people all got together to taint Ryan Garcia's samples, or he's just another dirty boxer.
In a sport full of dirty boxes.
The way the sport is right now, fighters are getting popped left and right. Fighters are getting popped for banned substances all the time.
But in your mind's eye, it's more likely that all of this is a clandestine effort by the global elites to silence Ryan Garcia.
Clearly, you can't distinguish fantasy from reality.
You're insane.
The byproduct of what is too much internet and too many fucking drugs.
You're nuts.
There is definitely a social commentary there as to how gullible and stupid the American populace has become over time, with the internet itself being the catalyst.
The paradox.
A wealth of information in the palm of your hands, accessible at the click of a button, has done more to make people dumber over time than smarter.
Wow.
And what has come out of all of this? Ryan Garcia blaming VADA themselves for what are his positive tests, his old adversary, Gervonta Davis, saying, I will never be using VADA no more.
It's a double negative.
Well, I don't think that he knows that. In any event, Gervonta Davis has emerged as one of Ryan Garcia's biggest sympathizers.
With an ulterior motive.
Looking at it, if he's supporting Ryan Garcia throughout all of this, I don't actually think it's because he believes him. It's because they share a common enemy in Devin Haney. For Gervonta Davis, it's becoming more and more clear
That's what this is really all about. He wants a victory by proxy.
he never actually wanted to face Devin Haney. He never actually wanted to get him in the ring and beat him himself because he had ample opportunities to do that, and we've been all through it.
When Devin was still at 135, even afterwards when he moved to 140, and Turki Al-Sheikh said he'd be willing to pay for that fight, to bring the fight to Saudi Arabia, Gervonta Davis was non-committal.
He didn't want to do it. He didn't want to roll the dice. He didn't want to know.
Then why is he celebrating and defending Ryan?
Because he wants a victory by proxy. He thinks all of this makes him look good. Look so good, he's willing to go up to bat for Ryan to further legitimize his victory. In his mind, I beat Ryan and Ryan beat Devin, so it's like I beat Devin.
Boxing math doesn't work like that.
Well, I know that, but do you think Gervonta does? You think he's good at math? Boxing math? Or any math? Any at all?
That's what it's about.
Don't forget that Gervonta Davis himself was the first one who accused Ryan Garcia of doping. Over a year ago, he said that he thinks Ryan's been juicing. That's what he said before. Whereas what he's saying now...
Turns out he was right.
But his story has changed. Now, at least publicly, he'd sooner believe that VADA set Ryan up than Ryan's just a dirty fighter. Like he said he was a dirty fighter. But it's not about defending Ryan.
It's about a victory by proxy.
Because he's a fucking coward. Like I've been telling you, he's a fucking coward. If you wanted to see Devin Haney lose so bad, you could have went in there with him and did it yourself. You had every opportunity.
Chicken shit.
The village built around Ryan Garcia is a mixture of some individuals, and some of them are Gervonta Davis fans, supporting Ryan for no other reason than their interpretation of Ryan's victory over Devin as Gervonta's victory over Devin. This is how these people's minds work.
They held the press conference earlier today for Gervonta's upcoming fight with Frank Martin, though I think that's the last thing on people's minds.
There is that much more going on in the world of boxing, including later on today, that has grabbed everyone's attention and drawn it away from Gervonta's upcoming pay-per-view. I don't think that thing's gonna do 1 million or even 500,000.
When it doesn't, what's Gervonta Davis gonna do?
As it's become more and more apparent why the pay-per-view with Ryan last year did as well as it did. Like him or not, Ryan Garcia draws a crowd. He draws attention, and without him, you're not gonna do numbers like that again.
Don't jump the gun. He's got to make it past Frank Martin first. That's a trial unto itself.
It may have felt like there was mounting pressure to face Devin Haney, and for that, the walls were closing in on him. He may be breathing a sigh of relief, but it's only momentarily.
You've got other things to worry about, little fella.
Devin wasn't your only problem.